welcome to Dissecting Sheep Brain Part 1. I have ordered several sheep's brains from Carolina Scientific, and they're very good in quality, as you can see. Brains are good. And so the dura mater has been removed and the brains have been washed under a steady stream of water to allow for the brains to be cleaned and prevent them and add moisture so they don't dry out in the midst of the dissection. So I'm about to make the midline cut with my large scalpel, and we just go make the first incision along the hippocampus by camera. Just trace it out. And we just cut through the brainstem and we make the final. And so now we have two perfectly cut halves of a sheep's brain. So here we have the medulla oblongata, the cerebellum, the cerebrum, and here's the third ventricle, the forearm. This area here is the corpus callosum, and we have up here is the pineal gland, and the pons is down about here, and the optic chasm is around here, and the inferior collicus is about here. The septum is around here, and septum is around here, and this is the brainstem. And here is a little bit of the dura mater left over. We can see that the dura mater is the toughest of the brain's three meninges, which are the outer protective layers of the brain and contain blood vessels and nerves supplying blood to the brain. So, now we're going to do the coronal cuts vertically along the sides of the brain. Let me just get rid of this piece of dura mater. Use my scissors for that. Just put this over here, and I'm going to keep using my large scalpel for that task. So the first cut is through the anterior portion of the corpus callosum, and that goes about here. So I'm just gonna, like I did before, I'm going to make the first mark through, maybe a little bit farther up, but don't use my fingers for the pons. Yeah, I think this is good. So I'll just start cutting. So here we have. So here we have the corpus callosum, the caudate nucleus, the internal capsule, and the putamen. So if we look at like, this would be go on the brain, something like this. But so now we're going to make the second cut through the brain. And we should see the midbrain, no, we should see the thalamus and the hippocampus after making this cut. So we make the cut about, let me check, about here. So down here is the thalamus, and here's the corpus callosum again. Or maybe a better example on this side, yeah, here. And we have the corpus callosum, and up here, and the lateral ventricle is around. Where is it? Oh yes, yeah, so it's about over here. The hippocampus is here, just cresting above the thalamus. The thalamus is quite large. It's probably the largest section shown here, but the corpus callosum is also large, as shown here. So here we have the first cut and the second cut. I'll put them next to each other for show purposes solely. And now we're going to make our third and final cut, just right here in front of the right here in front of the cerebellum. Start pressing. Just making sure to cut into the cerebellum, like any aspiring neurosurgeon should. Put this part with the cerebellum over here. And we have our third and final cut. And this came quite successfully. Right here we have the midbrain. There's a little hole indicative of the midbrain. We have the occipital cortex of the occipital lobe just right over here, and the superior colliculus, as we saw the inferior colliculus in the, I believe, the first cut, and the cerebral aqueduct is just here above the midbrain. So we put this, and we would just put that back on brain, and the cerebellum is not as intricate as one would think. It's do a slice of the cerebellum there. The cerebellum here is just it's just like netting, sort of like a web, or tree branches is probably the best analogy I can make. Let me see if the thinnest slice I can get. Like, difficult picking up my scalpel in my OR gloves. Yeah. Yeah, and I took this thin piece off up here, and it appears to be the same underneath. So I can reassemble this side of the brain. And here's the brain. It may be pretty hacked up, but this is from the part we started out with. You can see the obvious, self-evident connections between parts. So we still have the cerebellum pretty much intact. And we'll go over the cuts again, with this being mainly the inferior colon and mainly the corpus callosum, the caudate nucleus, and the internal capsule, and down here would be the putamen. Let me just put that down. And here we have the thalamus again, as well as the hippocampus and the lateral ventricle and the corpus callosum, as well as, and now we have the third and final cut, the superior collicus, the cerebral aqueduct, the midbrain, and the occipital cortex. So, thank you for joining me for part 1 of sheep brain dissection. Have a nice day.